Your mind is a battlefield every single day. Thoughts are waging war inside your head. Some are lifting you up, pushing you forward, fueling your ambition, while others are pulling you down, making you doubt yourself, filling you with fear, hesitation, and negativity. The real question is, which side is winning? Because whether you realize it or not, the direction of your life is being determined by what's happening in your mind. Most people don't even recognize the battle. They wake up feeling a certain way and they accept it as reality. If they wake up feeling tired, they assume they need more sleep. If they wake up feeling unmotivated, they assume something is wrong. If they experience a failure, they take it as proof that they're not good enough. They don't question these thoughts. They don't challenge them. They just accept them as truth. And that's exactly why they stay stuck. But here's the truth. Your mind is constantly feeding you thoughts based on your past experiences, your fears, your insecurities, and the conditioning you've been exposed to your entire life. If you've been told you're not smart enough, that thought will show up every time you face a challenge. If you failed in the past, your brain will remind you of it every time you try something new. If you've been through painful situations, your mind will replay those memories as if they're happening again, keeping you trapped in that emotional state. But just because a thought appears in your mind does not make it real. It does not make it true. It does not mean you have to accept it. The problem is that most people don't take control of their thoughts. They let them run wild, unchallenged, unchecked, shaping their reality without even realizing it. And the more you believe these thoughts, the more power they have. The more you give in to negative thinking, the stronger those thought patterns become, until they become automatic. They become so deeply ingrained in your mind that you don't even realize they're controlling your actions, your emotions, and your decisions. Think about it. How many times have you stopped yourself from doing something because of a thought? How many times have you doubted yourself before you even tried? How many times have you let fear talk you out of an opportunity, a goal, or a dream? That's the power of your mind. It can build you up or it can tear you down. It can open doors or it can lock you inside a prison of your own making. But here's what you need to understand. You are not your thoughts. Just because a negative thought enters your mind does not mean you have to accept it. Just because fear shows up does not mean you have to obey it. Just because doubt whispers in your ear does not mean it's telling the truth. You have the power to challenge your thoughts, to question them, to reframe them, and to replace them with something better. The first step is awareness. You have to start paying attention to the thoughts that are running through your mind on a daily basis. Most people go through life on autopilot, completely unaware of the self-sabotaging thoughts that are controlling them. They assume their emotions are just happening to them without realizing that those emotions are being driven by deeply embedded thought patterns. You can't change what you don't recognize. That's why you have to become an observer of your own mind. You have to step outside of yourself and start noticing the thoughts that are showing up. The moment a negative thought enters your mind, stop and question it. Ask yourself, where is this coming from? Is this thought based on facts or fear? Is this something I truly believe, or is it just a story I've been telling myself? Most of the time, when you really examine your negative thoughts, you'll realize they have no real foundation. They're just echoes of past experiences, old fears, and limiting beliefs that no longer serve you. And the moment you start questioning them, they lose their power over you. But awareness alone is not enough. You have to actively replace those negative thoughts with something better. If your mind is a battlefield, then you need to fight back. When doubt tells you you're not good enough, you have to say, I am more than enough. When fear tells you you're going to fail, you have to say, I am capable and I will succeed. When your past tries to haunt you, you have to remind yourself, I am not my past, I am creating my future. You have to talk back to your mind out loud if necessary until you drown out the negativity with truth. Because here's the thing, your brain believes whatever you tell it most often. If you've spent years feeding it doubt, insecurity, and fear, then that's what it's going to default to. But if you start feeding it confidence, belief, and determination, it will begin to shift. It won't happen overnight, but with repetition, you can reprogram your mind. You can rewire it to work for you instead of against you. You can train it to support your success instead of sabotaging it. This is not just about positive thinking. It's about taking control of the very foundation of your life, because if you don't control your mind, it will control you. If you don't master your thoughts, They will master you. And if you let negativity run the show, you'll never reach your full potential. So from this moment forward, start paying attention. Catch those negative thoughts before they take root. Question them, replace them, and make a decision right now that you will never let your mind hold you back again. Negative feelings are not random. They don't just appear out of nowhere. They follow a pattern, a cycle, a rhythm that plays on repeat in your mind day after day, year after year. And if you don't recognize that pattern and interrupt it, you will stay stuck in the same emotions, the same reactions, and the same results, no matter how badly you want to change. Think about it. When you experience a negative emotion, it's not just the situation itself that causes it. It's your interpretation of that situation. It's the meaning you attach to it, the story you tell yourself about it. Two people can go through the same event and feel completely different about it. One person loses a job and falls into depression, telling themselves they're a failure. Another person loses a job and feels excited, seeing it as an opportunity to start something new. The event is the same. The reaction is completely different. The difference, the pattern of thinking that each person follows. Most people don't even realize they have patterns. They assume that when something bad happens, feeling bad is the only response. When someone criticizes them, they assume they have to feel hurt. When they fail at something, they assume they have to feel like a failure. But that's not true. That's just a habit, a mental reflex you've built over time without realizing it. A pattern works like this. Something happens, it triggers a thought, that thought creates an emotion, that emotion influences your reaction, and that reaction reinforces the cycle. Over time, your brain learned this pattern so well that it becomes automatic. You don't even think about it anymore. It just happened. If every time you face rejection, you immediately feel worthless, that's not reality. That's a programmed response your brain has learned. And what your brain has learned, it can also unlearn, but only if you take control. The first step to breaking a pattern is awareness. You have to start recognizing the exact moments when negativity takes over. What triggers it? Is it a specific situation, a certain word, a particular memory? Most of the time, we don't even realize when we slip into negative emotions because we've been doing it for so long. But if you slow down and pay attention, you'll start to notice it. Maybe it's when you see someone else succeeding and that voice in your head says, why can't that be me? Maybe it's when someone gives you feedback and your first thought is, I'll never be good enough. Maybe it's when you think about the past and you feel that familiar wave of regret or shame wash over you. These are the moments when the pattern kicks in. The second step is interrupting the pattern. You have to do something to break the cycle the moment it starts. If you always react to bad news by feeling defeated, stop yourself immediately and shift your response. Do something different. Move your body, stand up, change your posture, change your breathing, say something out loud, shock your system. The fastest way to change an emotional pattern is to physically interrupt it. That's why when people get bad news, they instinctively put their hands on their head, shake their body, or start pacing. The body wants to break out of the mental state, but most people don't do it intentionally, they just react. But if you make it a choice, you take control. Another way to interrupt a pattern is to ask yourself powerful questions. The moment a negative emotion starts, ask yourself, is this thought even true? What else could this situation mean? How would the strongest version of me respond right now? Questions force your brain to search for new answers. And when you find new answers, you start to rewrite the pattern. But here's the key. You can't just interrupt the pattern once and expect everything to change. You have to do it consistently, over and over, until a new pattern is created. Your brain is like a muscle, and just like training in the gym, you have to repeat the process until it becomes second nature. Think of it like walking through a field of tall grass. If you walk the same path every day, eventually that grass gets trampled down and forms a clear trail. That's your current thought pattern. It's the path you've walked for years. If you suddenly decide to take a new route, it's going to feel uncomfortable at first. The grass will be thick. There won't be a clear path. You'll feel like turning back to the old route because it's easier. But if you keep walking the new path every day, eventually that grass will get trampled down and the old path will grow over. This is exactly how your brain works. The more you repeat a new way of thinking, the more automatic it becomes. The reason so many people struggle to change their negative emotions is that they only try once or twice. They tell themselves something positive for a day or two, but when the old feelings return, they assume it didn't work. No, it's not that it didn't work. It's that they didn't do it long enough to rewire their mind. This is why persistence is everything. Your negative emotional patterns were built over years, sometimes decades of repetition. That means replacing them will take consistent effort. You have to be relentless. You have to refuse to accept your old way of thinking. You have to stop letting your emotions control you and start taking authority over them. It's not about never feeling negative emotions again. That's impossible. But it is about not letting them dictate your actions, your mindset, or your future. You are in control. You decide what meaning you give to situations. You decide what thoughts you allow to take root in your mind. You decide which patterns you reinforce and which ones you destroy. If you truly want to change how you feel, you have to start interrupting the patterns that are keeping you stuck. And you have to do it every single time negativity tries to take over. Emotions, energy, it is not just something you feel. It is something you generate. And if you don't take control of that energy, it will take control of you. Most people don't realize that their emotions are a resource. They think emotions happen to them as if they have no choice in the matter. They feel angry and assume they must react with anger. They feel sad and assume they must stay stuck in sadness. They feel fear and assume they must retreat. But what they fail to understand is that emotion is just energy in motion. And energy can always be redirected. Think about it. The same energy that makes you feel nervous before speaking in front of a crowd is the same energy that makes a professional athlete feel pumped before stepping onto the field. The same energy that makes someone lash out in frustration can also be the energy that makes them fight for their dreams. It's not about the feeling, it's about where you direct that energy. The problem is that most people have been conditioned to handle negative emotions in the worst way possible. Instead of using that energy to push themselves forward, they shut down, they freeze, they overthink, they withdraw, they sit in their feelings, allow them to grow stronger until those emotions take complete control. They get stuck in a cycle where negative emotions dictate their actions instead of using those emotions to fuel positive action. But let's break it down. What is emotion really? It's just a biochemical response in your body, a surge of hormones, an increase in heart rate, a shift in focus. That's it. It's a signal. It's your body telling you, hey, something needs attention. But the mistake people make is letting the feeling control their actions instead of controlling how they use that feeling. Imagine two people experience the same setback. They both lose their jobs. The first person lets that energy spiral into depression, self-doubt, and hopelessness. They sit around replaying everything that went wrong, telling themselves they're not good enough, allowing the energy of failure to paralyze them. The second person feels that same energy but redirects it. They say, all right, this happened, but I'm going to use this as motivation. They channel that energy into updating their resume, learning new skills, and reaching out to new opportunities. The event was the same, but the direction of the energy was completely different. This is the secret that high achievers understand. Emotion is fuel. They don't let negative feelings drain them. They convert those feelings into drive, hunger, and determination. When they feel fear, they take action anyway. When they feel frustrated, they use that energy to push harder. When they feel doubt, they remind themselves that growth comes from challenge. The key to redirecting emotional energy starts with one simple realization. You are not your emotion. Just because you feel something does not mean you have to act on it. Just because doubt enters your mind does not mean you have to let it stop you. Just because fear shows up does not mean you have to retreat. You can decide what to do with that energy. One of the fastest ways to shift negative energy into positive action is through movement. Emotion lives in the body. Have you ever noticed that when you're feeling stuck in negative emotions, your body becomes sluggish? Your shoulders drop, your breathing becomes shallow, and your posture collapses. That's because your physical state and your emotional state are directly connected. Change one and you change the other. That's why athletes jump up and down before a big game. That's why power posing works. That's why people who walk and talk with energy feel more confident and motivated. If you ever feel negativity starting to take over, get up and move. Shake off the energy. Go for a run. Do push-ups. Jump up and down. Change your posture. The moment you shift your physical state, your emotional state will follow. Another way to redirect emotional energy is by changing your focus. What you focus on expands. If you focus on what's wrong, you will feel worse. If you focus on what you can control, you will feel empowered. Most people let their emotions be dictated by external events. They give all their attention to problems, obstacles, and limitations. But you have to train yourself to focus on solutions, possibilities, and opportunities. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Start asking, what can I learn from this? How can I use this to my advantage? Language is another powerful tool for shifting emotional energy. The words you use shape how you feel. If you constantly say, I'm so stressed, your brain will create more stress. If you say, I'm exhausted, your body will respond by shutting down. But if you reframe your words, you change the energy. Instead of saying, I'm nervous, say, I'm excited. Instead of saying, I'm overwhelmed, say, I'm being challenged to grow. Instead of saying, I can't do this, say, I'm figuring it out. Your emotions are not the problem. The problem is how you interpret them and what you do with them. Every time you feel a negative emotion, you have a choice. Let it control you or use it to fuel you. Energy is just energy. It's neutral until you give it direction. And when you learn to control that energy, you take control of your life. Your mind is like a garden. Whatever you plant in it will grow. If you plant negativity, self-doubt, and fear, that's exactly what will take over. If you plant confidence, belief, and determination, those will flourish instead. The problem is that most people don't even realize what they're planting. They allow whatever thoughts come into their minds to take root without questioning whether those thoughts are serving them or destroying them. And just like a neglected garden, the weeds of negativity start to spread until they take over everything. What you feed your mind on a daily basis will determine your emotions, your actions, and ultimately your results in life. But most people don't take control of their mental diet. They consume negativity all day long without realizing how much damage it's doing. They start their morning scrolling through social media, comparing themselves to others, feeding their minds with self-doubt before they even get out of bed. They turn on the news and let fear, uncertainty, and panic fill their thoughts. They listen to coworkers or friends who complain all day, absorbing their energy without questioning how it's affecting them. And then they wonder why they feel anxious, discouraged, and unmotivated. The truth is, your mind is always being influenced by something. The question is, who is in control of that influence? Are you deliberately choosing what enters your mind, or are you letting the world decide for you? Because if you're not careful, your mind will be programmed by default, by the negativity, the distractions, and the limitations of the environment around you. You have to start feeding your mind what it needs, just like you would with your body. If you ate junk food every single day, never exercised, and ignored your health, you wouldn't be surprised if your body started breaking down. But when it comes to the mind, people do this all the time. They consume mental junk food, negative news, toxic conversations, self-defeating thoughts, and then wonder why they feel stuck, stressed, and unmotivated. If you want to change how you feel, you have to change what you consume. Start by becoming hyper-aware of what you allow into your mind. Pay attention to what you listen to, what you watch, and who you spend time with. If something is draining your energy, making you doubt yourself, or keeping you stuck in negativity, eliminate it or limit your exposure to it. If you constantly hear people talking about why things are impossible, why dreams don't come true, or why you should be realistic, those thoughts will start to shape your reality. But if you surround yourself with people who push you, who believe in you, who encourage you to grow, your mind will start to reflect that energy instead. One of the most powerful ways to rewire your mind is through daily repetition of positive and empowering messages. What you tell yourself every day matters more than what anyone else says to you. If you spend years feeding your mind with doubt, fear, and insecurity, those thoughts won't just disappear overnight. You have to overwrite them with new beliefs. And that requires constant repetition. Affirmations, visualization, and self-talk are not just motivational gimmicks. They are how you program your subconscious mind. The brain learns through repetition, just like a muscle learns through consistent training. If you say to yourself, I'm confident, I'm strong, I'm capable, every single day, eventually that belief will take root. But if you keep telling yourself, I'm not good enough, I'll always fail, I'll never make it, that belief will become your reality too. Your mind believes what you tell it most often. Reading and listening to empowering content every day is another way to rewire your thinking. If you start your morning with something that challenges you, inspires you, or teaches you a new perspective, you set the tone for your entire day. Instead of letting outside distractions dictate your thoughts, you take control of what enters your mind. One of the biggest mistakes people make is thinking they can change their mindset by just deciding to be more positive once in a while. But it doesn't work like that. Mindset is built through daily habits, just like physical fitness. You don't get in shape by working out once. You have to train consistently. The same goes for your mind. You have to feed it with empowering thoughts every single day, just like you feed your body with the right nutrients. Music, podcasts, and audio books are also powerful tools. What you listen to repeatedly gets embedded in your subconscious mind. That's why a song you haven't heard in years can suddenly come back to you word for word when it plays. Your mind absorbs what you expose it to. If you're constantly listening to negativity, complaining, and self-doubt, that's what will replay in your head. But if you start filling your mind with messages that inspire you, teach you, and challenge you, that's what will start to play on repeat instead. Even your environment plays a huge role in shaping your mindset. The places you spend time in, the people you talk to, and the conversations you have all contribute to the thoughts that dominate your mind. If you want to change your thinking, change what surrounds you. If your current environment is filled with distractions, negativity, or influences that keep you from growing, it's time to make adjustments. Your habits and routines also affect your mental state more than you realize. If you constantly start your day in a rush, feeling overwhelmed and scattered, your mind will reflect that energy. But if you create a morning routine that includes reading something empowering, writing down your goals, and setting intentions for the day, your mind will be primed for success. Small habits like journaling, meditation, or even just taking a few minutes to express gratitude can shift your entire mindset over time. Most importantly, you have to guard your mind like your life depends on it, because it does. If you let negativity take root, it will shape your actions, your choices, and your future. But if you deliberately plant seeds of confidence, belief, and growth, those will be the thoughts that take over instead. Your mind is your most powerful tool, but only if you control what goes into it. Your subconscious mind is like the operating system of a computer. It runs in the background, executing commands based on the programming it has received. The problem is most people don't realize that their subconscious mind has been programmed by default, by their past experiences, their upbringing, the media they consume, and the beliefs they've absorbed from the people around them. And if that programming is filled with doubt, fear, and limitations, it will run their life without them even realizing it. Most people try to change their life by focusing on external actions. They set new goals, try to break bad habits, or push themselves to think more positively. But if their subconscious programming is still wired for negativity, self-doubt, and failure, they will always fall back into the same patterns. It's like trying to run new software on an outdated computer. The system keeps reverting back to its original settings. If you want to truly change your life, you have to reprogram your subconscious mind at the deepest level. Your subconscious mind does not think logically. It accepts whatever it is repeatedly told. If you constantly tell yourself, I'm not good enough, your subconscious will accept that as truth and create behaviors that prove it to be true. If you repeatedly think, I always fail, your subconscious will direct your actions in ways that lead to failure. But if you intentionally feed your subconscious with empowering beliefs, it will start working for you instead of against you. One of the most effective ways to reprogram your subconscious mind is through repetition. The brain learns through repeated exposure. Think about how you learned your own name. When you were a child, people called you by your name so many times that it became ingrained in your identity. The same process applies to your beliefs. If you want to rewire your mind for success, you have to repeatedly expose yourself to thoughts, words, and images that reinforce the reality you want to create. Affirmations are a powerful tool for this. When you repeat affirmations, you are not just saying words, you are installing new beliefs into your subconscious mind. But here's the mistake most people make. They say affirmations once in a while and then they doubt them. They say, I am successful, but then immediately think, but that's not true. And as soon as doubt enters the mind, the subconscious rejects the new belief. The key is emotion. You have to say affirmations with conviction, with feeling, and with repetition until they sink into your subconscious and become your default way of thinking. Visualization is another powerful technique. Your subconscious mind does not know the difference between a real experience and a vividly imagined one. That's why professional athletes use visualization to prepare for competition. They see themselves winning over and over again until their subconscious believes it's already happened. When you visualize yourself succeeding, your subconscious mind adjusts your actions to align with that reality. Meditation and hypnosis are also effective ways to access the subconscious. When your mind is in a relaxed state, it becomes more receptive to new programming. That's why listening to guided meditations or affirmations before bed is so powerful. Your subconscious absorbs the information without resistance. If you consistently listen to empowering messages while in a relaxed state, they will begin to overwrite the limiting beliefs that have been running your life. Another key to reprogramming the subconscious is changing the questions you ask yourself. Your mind is like a search engine. It will find answers to whatever you ask. If you constantly ask, why do I always fail? Your subconscious will find proof to reinforce that belief. But if you ask, how can I improve? Or what's the lesson in this challenge? Your subconscious will start searching for answers that empower you instead of limiting you. Your external environment also plays a role in shaping your subconscious programming. The people you surround yourself with, the conversations you have, the books you read, the media you consume, all of these things send messages to your subconscious about what is possible for you. If you are constantly around negativity, your subconscious will absorb it. But if you intentionally fill your environment with positivity, inspiration, and growth, your subconscious will start operating at a higher level. Breaking old patterns requires conscious effort. Your subconscious is comfortable with what is familiar, even if it's negative. That's why people stay in toxic relationships, stay stuck in self-doubt, or repeat the same mistakes over and over again, because their subconscious is attached to the familiar. But when you start reprogramming your mind, your old patterns will fight back. You might feel resistance. You might feel uncomfortable. That's a sign that change is happening. You have to push through that discomfort until the new programming becomes automatic. You can rewire your subconscious for anything: success, confidence, happiness, wealth, health. But it requires consistency. You can't do it for a few days and expect permanent change. Just like training in the gym, your mind needs daily repetition to strengthen new beliefs. But once you install new programming, everything shifts. You no longer have to force yourself to think positively. It becomes natural. You no longer have to battle self-doubt. It disappears on its own. Your actions start aligning with the new version of yourself, and your external reality begins to reflect that transformation. Most people go through life reacting to their subconscious programming without ever realizing they have the power to change it. But the moment you take control of your mind, you take control of your future.